let's go ahead and get started just to make sure. Braylon, I see your message. You can just watch. It's fine. Let's go ahead and get started just in case something does happen to the Zoom meeting, because you know the internet is kind of sketchy. That way we'll make sure we understand what we're doing. So let me kind of map out what we're going to do. We're going to do lowest terms next, which is fractions that are basically as small as they can get. And then I want to talk to you guys about math and science for the rest of the week, and then just some stuff about the end of the year that we need to go over, and about missing work. So let me go ahead and talk about what you guys did with factors. You guys did great with factors. If you needed help, I've already talked to you about it. You guys did really well though, so I'm really good with that. Thank God that you did do well with factors, because it goes hand in hand with this. So look at what I have on the screen, lowest terms. This is the definition. A fraction is in simplest form, or lowest terms, when the numerator and denominator have no common factor other than 1. So these two words right here, lowest terms and simplest form, they mean the same thing. That is the same term. They're just synonyms of each other. Look at page 278. The terms of a fraction are its numerator and its denominator. A fraction in lowest terms or simplest form when its numerator and denominator have no common factors other than 1. So there's two ways to kind of do this. I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to show you the way the textbook tells you to do it, and then I'm going to show you the way I do it in my head, and you can do whichever one works for you. This is really important because next year we're going to start with fractions, and you're going to need to know what simplest form is. Now, we'll go over it next year and review it, but I want you guys to be introduced to it now. Simplest form is how you have to leave every fraction. So let me give you an example of what that means. If I have a fraction like 2/4, we did the other day and last week, we did equivalent fractions. That kind of lays the groundwork for what you're doing today, as does factors. If we were to put 2/4 in simplest terms, it would be half. So when you're going to simplest form, you're trying to make this number smaller and this number smaller, okay? So when you go into simplest form, you divide. Now, what I'm going to tell you today is how to figure out the number you divide by. When you have the number like 1/2, or 2/3, or 3/4, any of those numbers where they're back-to-back numbers, then it's already in simplest form. So that would be like 1/2, 2/3, 3/4, 4/5. Do you see how all those numbers are back-to-back? 3 to 4, 4 to 5. All of those are in simplest form. So when you see one like that, you already know it's in simplest form. We talked about, well, maybe not, maybe we did though, prime and composite numbers. If I have a number like 1/17, then, hold on, let me get Cami back on. Then that's already in simplest form. If you have a 1 on top, it's already in simplest form. Give me a second to get Cami back on, and then I'm gonna erase this and write that down for you. Like I said before, this is super, super important, because in 5th grade, if you don't have your fractions in simplest form, it's wrong. So if I have, something next year where you're adding fractions and you leave I thought I had the pen on. If you leave 2/4, it's going to be wrong because you didn't simplify it. So let me give you another little note to write down. If a 1 is on top, it's already in simplest form. So if I have 1/12, 1/10, 1/9, any of those. So I'll just put a couple down. You don't have to write that down if you don't want to. 1/9, 1/8. I could even say 1,000. Any of those are already in simplest form if you have a 1. So the only thing you're going to get today, and the only thing that's going to be on your test, is if I have something up and I say, is this in simplest form? And you write yes or no. And then remember, your test on Friday is open book. So all of the stuff we've been doing this week is basically what I copied down for the test. So your classwork today is going to be the same thing that's going to be on your test, and you can use that to help you. So please use this work today. Please pay attention to what you're getting right and wrong, and you can use that on the test to help you out. All right, so continue to write that down. Let me get a couple questions I see, and then I'm going to move on to some examples and to show you how to do that. Jacob?
It's nicer than a dirt bike.
Yes.
You had your hand raised. You have a question? Okay, you must have clicked it accidentally. Okay, so let's look at a fraction like 6/10. Okay, so write down 6/10. I'm going to show you the two different ways that you can do the reducing, is what we call it. Once you get used to this, you can do it in your head. Some of you might already know how to do this, and you can do it in your head. Hold on just a second. Let me get Cammie. Okay. Here's what we do. We look at 6 and we look at 10 and we list out the factors like you did yesterday and the day before. So the factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. That's because I can do 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. The factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. Those are all the numbers I can multiply to get to 10. 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. So then I'm going to take my GCF, which is 2. I'm going to do that in red. My GCF is 2. Make sure when you're doing this, you only circle the GCF, by the way, because if you circle a whole bunch of numbers, I'm not going to know which one you think is the GCF. So if I look at 6 and 10, the greatest factor they share is 2. So that's the number I use up here to divide by. Remember my golden rule with fractions. You do the same thing on the top you do on the bottom. So if I divide 6 by 2, I get 3. If I divide 10 by 2, I get 5. So my simplest form fraction is 3/5. So when you look at it, you know it's in simplest form if you can't divide them by the same number anymore. So sometimes what I do in my head is I say, okay, what can I divide 6 and 10 by that's the same number? You want to divide them by the same number, and it has to be the biggest same number, which is what factors are. So we're going to do another one. Like I said, you can start out by doing factors, but eventually you're going to be able to do it in your head. So let's do one like 6/18. 6/18. So I'm going to list my factors out for 6 and 18. Factors for 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. So remember, same factors we just did. Remember I told you if you have already done it, then just copy it from the previous problem. Factors for 18, there's going to be a little bit more because it's a bigger number. So I can do 1 times 18. I could do 2 times 9. I can do 3 times 6. Okay, so if I look, my GCF is going to be 6. So that's the number I'm going to want to divide by for both of them. I'm going to do this in green to show you a little bit of a different color. So if I do 6 divided by 6 and 18 divided by 6, that's all I have to do. Then I have to just solve it. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So you get 1/3. And remember, if 1's on top, it's already simplified enough. That's all you have to do. So you can list out the factors, or some of you might be able to see that in your head and say, I can do divided by 6 on both of them. Another little trick I always try is I look at the top number and I say I can divide 6 by 6, so can I divide 18 by 6? Yeah. So when that works, I just divide both of them by that, and it's a little bit easier. So let's do, I'm trying to give you one that's not, let's do 9/27. 9/27. This one we haven't done the factors for yet, so let's do our factors. Factors for 9 are 1, 9, and 3. Now you don't have to write 3 twice because 3 times 3 is what equals 9, but you could just write it one time. 27, we have 1 and 27. Can't divide 2 by anything. I can do 3 and 9, and I think that's about it. So then I look and my GCF is 9. Or you could have done my other trick and looked at the top number. 9 can be divided by 9, and 27 can also be divided by 9. Now, really important, listen to this. That little trick won't always work. It's just the first thing I try when I look to see what I can divide by. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. 27 divided by 9 is 3. So my reduced fraction is 1/3. So there's 3 different things I've taught you for this. Number 1, you can always look up here and see if you can start out with that number. Sometimes you can't. I'll show you one in a second where you can't do that. You can list out the factors, or you can think, what can I divide both numbers by that's the biggest? Sometimes you'll divide it, and if you're not doing the factors, then maybe you look and you say, okay, I can divide by 3. But it won't be big enough, so you'll have to keep going. That's why it's important to think of the biggest number you can divide by. So let me look. Let's do one like this. 15/18. Now my trick doesn't work here. I can divide 15 by 15, but I cannot divide 18 by 15. That doesn't work, it's too big. So I have to look at the factors for this one. So I'm gonna look at 15 and 18. Factors for 15 are 1 and 15, 3, and 5. Those are the 4 numbers I can multiply to get 15. 18, we did a second ago. I have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Okay, so now looking at this one, my GCF is 3, so that's what I'm going to divide by. 15 divided by 3, 18 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So we get 5/6. Okay? For today's homework assignment, I'm not going to make you actually figure out what the reduced fraction is. You're going to do the ones where you're going to look at them and see yes or no. You're going to say, is it in simplest form? So let's practice a couple of those. I'm going to put them up and you're going to tell me yes or no if it's in simplest form or not. That's all you need to do. So try these. Just write yes or no if it's in simplest form or not. You don't even have to write the problem if you don't want to. So it's not in simplest form if I can divide those numbers by something, by a factor that they share. If I can't divide them by the same number, then they are in simplest form. So write yes, they're in simplest form, or no, they are not. Usually when you see an even number on top of an even number, you can go ahead and reduce that more. Because think of all even numbers, they can be divided by 2. 2 can be divided by 2, 4, 6, 8, any of those. Odd numbers on top of even numbers, you gotta check those out because sometimes you can simplify them, but sometimes you can't. And then remember my trick, if they're consecutive numbers like 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, they're already simplified. So like I said, next year when we get into this, we will go back over this and start with this when we do fractions, which isn't until about December of next year. But I do want you guys to know this because this year's 5th grade, when they came into 5th grade, they didn't do anything with fractions last year. And so when we started out, it was like brand new to them. So I want you guys to know this and just be familiar with it for next year. This will be on your test, but like I said, I'm pretty sure I just copied your classwork. So all I did was copied your classwork for it, and all you have to do is make sure that you got the correct answers. So let's look at these. I'm gonna choose red to make it a little bit different. 1/2. 1/2 is in simplest form, so I could put Y or N, yes. 2/4, no, because I can divide that further and make it 1/2, so it's not in simplest form. 2/10, no. I can divide 2 and 10 by 2 and make it 1/5, so I'm going to do that in green. I can divide this by 2, this by 2, and get 1/5, so it's not in simplest form. 5/8, yes. I can't divide 5 and 8 by the same number. I can divide 5 by 5, and that's it. Can't divide 8 by 5. Number 5, 16/24, it is not in simplest form. 16 and 24, I can divide that down further. 4 is a number that comes up to the top of my head. I can divide 16 by 4 and 24 by 4, and I can divide them both by 8 as well. So 8 would be the number that's ultimately going to give me the smallest fraction. Okay, so that's all you'll do today's classwork is yes or no. Look at today's classwork directions real quick. It says, is each fraction in simplest form? Write yes or no, explain. You don't have to explain, just write yes or no, okay? So for today's homework, just write yes or no, no explaining necessary. Okay, before we go on to science, I'm gonna write a couple things down right here I want you to copy. So no more math or science Zoom. So this is our last one. On Friday, you have the test. The test is open book. I can't tell you any more than I've already told you. Please use your resources. Use your book, use your notes, use your classwork, use your homework. You know that more times than not, I'm going to copy your test questions from your classwork and homework. So go ahead and use it. So no more math or science Zoom. That is going to be our last one today. Now you will have classes up until Friday. Another one I want to tell you, I've extended the missing work deadline to Monday by 5 p.m. Now, listen to why I did that. On Friday, you still have stuff due. So if someone is sick or something happens and you can't get your work in by Friday, then I don't want you to be kind of left out. That's not fair. So on Friday, I'm going to send the last missing work list, okay? There are 250 missing assignments, and it takes me about 3 hours to get them all typed up. It's insane. That's why I'm not doing it every day. I just can't. It's too much. So what I need you guys to do to help me out, you know who you are if you have missing work. If I haven't talked to you, then you don't have any. If I've talked to you or your parents, you know you have missing work. Now, some of them you might have turned in already and I didn't see. One of you the other day, you said, hey, I already did this. And I said, okay, cool, and I checked it. Just because I haven't seen it, you might need to remind me to look at it. Shobi isn't that great with giving me notifications for stuff, especially if you turn it in late. So I'm gonna put missing work due by Monday at 5 p.m. So if you are all caught up by Friday, then you're done with all that kind of stuff. I need all missing work by Friday or by Monday at 5 p.m. That is like going to give me a little bit of time to get report cards done. I'm pushing it as far as I can. We have to have report cards done by Tuesday morning. So I need to get all of this work in by then. I can't accept anything after that because Mr. Robbie has to do report cards. So I've pushed it and pushed it as far as I can go. Now I need you guys to help me out. If you know you have missing work, you need to be working on it all the time. I'm grading it as fast as I can. I'd start my grading at 4 when the assignments are due. And then I go through and I do missing work after that. What it does is Shobi will pop up and say like, so-and-so turned in this assignment, and I'll click it one at a time. So just bear with me to get it done. If you know you have missing work, just help me out. Please, please, please turn it in on time. I really, really need that work in. Friday, you have 2 tests for me, science and math. If you've seen, I posted this on Dojo. If you have a bad grade on a test or something, go through and redo it. You guys have every opportunity to make your grade better. Now, I will tell you that tests count more than classwork. You guys know that. Tests count way more than classwork does. So if you made a bad grade on a test, I would do that first and fix that test because that's going to count more than a classwork assignment is, and it's going to help your grade more. Teacheries is closed down for the rest of the school year. So if you see anything on Shobi that you want to redo, you can. You just have to let me know to check it because I won't know if you don't tell me to check it. Then if you want to know maybe what I think you should redo, you can ask me. If you send me a message on Shobi saying, what do you think I should redo? I can tell you I would do this one, and this one. Then by the end of this week, we should have a better look at kind of what your grade is going to be. So that's kind of where we are with that stuff. Now, social studies, let me get to that real quick before science. Some of you are having problems with FlipGrid, so let me explain. Let's go to Shobi real quick, and I'm going to show you these directions, because I don't know if a lot of you are looking at my directions before you're just starting. So look at the FlipGrid tutorial. Once you enter, it's going to say, enter your flip code. That's where you enter Clark 4814. That's how you get into the state project FlipGrid. Then it's going to ask you for your personal ID. That's the one I texted you on Shobi Sunday night. If you put in your personal ID first, it's not going to work. So if my personal ID was Clark 1 and I put that in, it's not going to take me to anything because that's not a FlipGrid. So when you enter, you need to put in Clark 4814 first, then you put in your personal ID. If you scroll down, you'll see the video I made. Liam and Rahel, your videos are up, but I just haven't approved them to be shown yet. It has to be watched by me first. So if you go and you don't see it, it's fine. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So if you go back and you don't see your video, that's just because I haven't made it public yet. So don't freak out. Those are the 2 I've seen so far. I've only seen Rahel and Liam's. Once you watch mine and you kind of understand what you're going to do, then you're ready to record. So there's a big green plus sign that says moderated. Moderated just means I have to approve it before everybody can see it. It's going to ask you permission to use your camera and microphone, so you want to click yes. Then you can record your video. If you mess up, you can re-record it. I did that a couple times. So that's how you get in. You have to put in Clark 4814 first, and I think that's where some of you might be messing up. If you try and it still doesn't work, just send me a video and show me. It's the same as attaching your pictures that you do for classwork. You would just attach a video instead. Okay, so if it just doesn't work, you can do that. And remember, that's due Friday, and that's your only thing for social studies this week. So you can use that time to be doing missing work if you have it. So let's look now at science real quick. Oh, you're not in 5th grade yet, almost. 4th grade science. All right, today you have D53, 1 through 5. Those are questions with the reading. So let's look at those real quick. And then I'm gonna go over your study guide with you. Oops, sorry. D53. Okay, so this one is all about the ocean floor. I find this one actually more interesting than the others. If you look up stuff about the ocean floor, maybe that's what I can put up next week. It has those really cool, like, weird animals that you see at the bottom of the ocean. So those are kind of cool. You just need to show that you know the parts of the ocean floor. So the first part of the ocean floor is the shore zone. That's where the land and the ocean meet. Then you have the continental shelf, and the continental shelf slopes downward. Then you have abyssal plains after that. Look at the bottom picture on D48. I'm on D48. The continental shelf is the shallow underwater edge of a continent. So think about that, the underwater edge of a continent. After that, you get to the abyssal plain. The abyssal plain is way deep out in the ocean, and it's a huge, huge area of just ocean floor. It has thick sediment at the bottom, which is stuff that's settled. You have trenches. Trenches are really kind of similar to the fault lines we talked about with earthquakes. They're really deep canyons in the bottom of the ocean floor. The deepest part of the oceans are the trenches. There's something called the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest. Then you have the mid-ocean ridge. The mid-ocean ridge is a chain of mountains under the ocean. So what you also need to know is that any kind of landforms that are on Earth are also under the ocean. So even though we have mountains and we think about them being on Earth, they're also under the ocean. The shore zone is a rich area of resources. It shows you some of the minerals you can find there. Then it shows you mid-ocean features. If you turn to page D50, I always think this picture is the coolest because it shows you kind of a little map of what the trenches and the mountain chains look like. You can see the raised parts are going to be the mountain parts, and the parts that they show you that look like they're cracks in the ocean floor, that's the trenches. And you can see it compared to other continents. They show Australia to the left. Know that abyssal plains, that's just a really flat part of the ocean. Trenches are canyons. Mid-ocean ridges are mountains. And if you turn the page, it just shows you how they can change. We did this a lot with volcanoes and earthquakes. Same kind of thing happens on the ocean floor to cause earthquakes and volcanoes than it does on Earth. So let's look at your study guide real quick on your screen. Use this on your test Friday. You can pull this up and use this on your test. I'm telling you, I'm giving you every opportunity to use it. You can use this on your test. All you have to do is pull it up to answer the questions. So know your vocabulary. That's going to be the main part. Now, you can use your book to help you with that. Also, what I want to tell you is the vocabulary on this is not the kind where you match. It's the kind where you read the little paragraph and insert it. And I know you hate that one, but I can't change it on it. You need to know the pull of the moon's gravity has the greatest effect on changing tides. So it'll give you a question like, what has the greatest effect on changing tides? It's the moon's gravity. The moon has the biggest effect on the tides because it's the closest body to us. We're closer to the moon than we are to the sun. The temperature and amount of salt in water affect the density of deep ocean currents. So deep ocean currents we talked about the other day. The temperature of the water and the amount of salt in the water affects that current. The strength of the wind, the amount of time the wind blows, and the size of the area over which the wind blows determines the height of a wave. So it'll tell you what determines the height of a wave. There you go, your answer's right there. You need to know waves move up and down. Some of you put on your homework that waves move vertically, which is another way for up and down. You need to know that they don't go side to side, though. They go up and down, those kind of waves. Erosion makes beaches smaller because it carries sand and sediment away. That's kind of common sense, right? You know, if the sand is being carried away from the beach, it's going to make the beach smaller. The gravitational force of the moon on Earth's oceans is stronger than the gravitational force of the sun because the moon is closer to Earth than the sun. Just told you that one. A deep ocean current occurs because denser water flows beneath less dense water. So denser almost means heavier. It doesn't quite mean heavier, but you can think of it that way. So if you have heavier water, it's obviously going to flow under the lighter water. On the ocean floor, when one plate slides beneath another, a trench forms. That's an important one. That one is on your test for sure. All of these questions came from your test. I copied them straight from it. So when you have one plate sliding under another, that's when you get a trench or a canyon. And then the ocean, area of the ocean that's the richest is the shore zone. That's going to have a lot of young fish, young animals, and a lot of plants and things like that. So all of this you can use on your test Friday. Please use it. You have every opportunity to make an A Friday. You can ask me any questions you have on Shobi about your grade. If you need to, don't ask me here because it's not everybody else's business what your grades are. But if you need to ask me questions about your grades or ask me what I think you should redo, then you can ask me on Shobi later. Please, please, please get this missing work in, guys. It's 250. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it's coming from 4th grade. My 5th graders have gotten their stuff in, besides maybe one person or two. But you guys have got to get your stuff in. I know it's the end of the year, and I know that you're done with Zoom and done with class. But just push on through the next couple of days. Get this stuff done. Get it in. You're going to feel so much better when you get all that in, I promise. Like I said, if I haven't talked to you, you probably don't have any missing work. But on Friday, I'm going to give everybody one more list and let you know. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to unlock your science, or not your science, your math. You're going to do page 279, 10 through 15. That's the one where you just put yes or no. You don't need to explain your answer. You can even put Y and N. I don't care. As long as I can tell what's a Y and what's an N. But you're free to go start working on that. I'm going to unmute you. If you have any questions, you can ask me. And if you don't, you're free to go. I'll upload the video in a little bit. It takes a while for me to get it to convert and then get it to convert to YouTube. So when I can, I'll get it up, okay? All right, let me unmute you guys. All right.
I have a question.
Okay. Yeah.
After we're done with after we turn in everything, and we're done with all of it, I was done with schoolwork for you until
You're done on Friday. After you get everything done Friday and all your missing work, then you're done.
Do you see my chin then?
Thanks.
Lorelai?
When you were talking about deep sea creatures, would a vampire count of Monte Cristo books?
I don't know. I don't know all of them. I just know those creepy looking fish.
Fish. Bye.
I'm gonna read that.
Do you see my chicken?
Y'all can look up some cool animals and send them to me.
Okay.
Miss Clark.
Bye. Natasha, do you have a question?
Miss Clark, do you see my little chicken?
I have one.
Can we
Hold on,
leave?
let me get these questions real quick. I see Natasha, then I'll get to Liam. Natasha?
Are both of the tests that we have on Friday open book? Mirror.
All of them, yep.
Mirror.
Use your book to help you. Liam?
Bye.
Bye.
I'm coming.
Bye, Natasha.
Question about
Laura, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Actually, for math, do we on like 10 through 15? Are we supposed to write? Oh, never mind. You're supposed
Okay,
to.
got it.
I'm Claire.
Bye. Cool chicken. Is that a chicken, Jacob?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. He must like you, or she. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.